My name is John. Thanks very much to everybody who's come along to this session called Getting into University today. And just to let you know as well, Greg and I are from the Lifelong Learning Centre at the University of Leeds. So really quick, brief introduction about the Lifelong Learning Centre. It's a school and a service within the University of Leeds that offers support for adults who haven't had the opportunity to go to university before, with guidance and other pre-entry support. But we also have courses as well. I'll let you know at the end as well of upcoming events that we've got coming up as well, because there are some other events that you might want to come along to. But just to mention as well, you know, the session we're doing today, it doesn't matter where you're applying to or what you're applying for, really. You know, don't feel that if you're not applying to Leeds or to Lifelong Learning Centre, you can't ask questions. If you're applying to Beckett, Trinity, Bradford, further afield, you know, Edinburgh, Manchester, Sheffield, wherever it is, or thinking about doing it in perhaps a few years' time, you're not sure yet, you know, ask questions, please do. You know, it's not about the University of Leeds today, it's about going to university generally, so feel free to ask as many questions as you want. Anna, yeah, thanks very much. You have a question, should you ask it at the end of the session? I'd say ask it whenever you want, honestly, absolutely fine. A lot of what we may cover, hopefully, fingers crossed, if the session's okay, we'll cover a lot of questions maybe you'll have, but feel free to ask as we go along. Now, we're going to start the session called Getting into University, and it's really around things that you want to know. The one thing to say as well is the conversation doesn't have to end here either. If you have questions that you think of at a later date, you know, feel free to get in touch with us and ask us any questions. That's what we're here for. We're here to support adults who want to go to university and they want to find out that information, which is really important to them. You know, so feel free to contact me after or contact us at the Lifelong Learning Centre. We're really happy to help. So I think we've gone through this, which is brilliant. Where you're applying, so what you're applying for, and you know, the type of mode of study you're looking at, part-time or full-time, because we're going to cover a lot of information, and it's good to know the different courses that you're thinking of applying for. The one thing I'd just say as well is there's no silly questions when you're thinking about applying to uni. You know, if you have any questions at all, feel free to ask them while we're going on. I said I keep banging on about that, but really that's what we're here to help with. And you can have many, you know, specific questions. It could be around, you know, university applications, it could be Ucas, it might be student finance, it might be accommodation, anything at all. Ask us while you're here, and if we can't answer it, we'll always find somebody who can answer it for you. So I think the first place to start when we're considering university study is things to consider, and it kind of comes down to four areas, or four key areas, I think, to think about, and within that there's lots of other things. But I guess the first thing is university entry, and actually if we go, you know, further back, the first thing may be to consider for some people what you actually want to study at university. Now it's great, you know, a lot of you sound like you've got some great ideas, sociology, for example, mental health nursing, psychology, but there might be some people who are still not quite sure what they're thinking about doing or what they want to do. And I think, you know, we can start by thinking about why we want to go to university. Is it to get into a particular profession, for example? It could be a particular healthcare profession, particular career that you may be thinking of. Or is it for the fact that we want to go and learn, perhaps, for the joy of studying, which is, you know, totally valid reason as well. It could be to pursue a real interest that you've had for a number of years. That is a great place to start if you want to study a particular course to get you a particular profession. That could be, you know, narrow you to a number of courses, but essentially also, you know, if you're interested in a particular subject area, or you have a particular passion for a particular, you know, subject or discipline, that's where you may focus as well. One thing to say about that, however, is if you really want to study, maybe you really want to be a teacher. Not everybody who goes on to be a teacher does a teaching degree, for example. Maybe people, well, a lot of people often will study subjects in a wide variety of different areas and will then progress on to study the teaching degree at postgraduate level. It's the same with healthcare. You know, people progress onto numerous different roles within the healthcare sector as well. So, you know, that's just a place to start if you're not sure about what you want to study. But once you've got that idea of what you want to study, the next thing really to think about are the practical, you know, considerations, I would say. You know, the entry requirements, for example. Do you meet the entry requirements? One thing to mention about this is that universities have different entry requirements. So if you were thinking of applying for let's say, a nursing degree at Leeds and also Leeds Beckett, while you would think they probably have the same entry requirements, that they don't. They have quite different entry requirements. So do check that you meet that specific entry requirement for the courses you're applying for. Greg, can I just double check? Because I'm always really paranoid that my internet connection's gone down. You can hear me okay, can't you?
Yes, I can. I'm assuming everyone else can as well.
I just always worry that I'm, talking into the laptop and I've lost my connection. So the next thing to think about as well is, do you need anything else? So check you meet the entry requirements for any of you who are studying a qualification at the moment. Make sure that your qualification you're studying is going to get you onto that program. See what you need to get grade-wise. So if you study an Access, for example, or a BTEC, what grades would you need to get onto that course? If you've previously been studying, maybe you finished your studies, a while ago perhaps, or you've studied overseas, check your qualifications will get you onto that program. And that's a conversation that you can have with our admissions department by emailing them, letting them know what you've studied, and they should be able to confirm that if it's not available on the course information web page. That's a really good place to start as well, the course information web pages. All universities have them, and they'll have a wealth of information there about what you need for entry requirements, what you will be studying on the course, and what people go on to study after as well, or do after. So there's a really good place to start. But also think about if you need anything else as well. So some courses will need you to have GCSEs, for example. Some courses would like you to have work experience or put together a portfolio, perhaps for an art or practical based course. You can check all these things again online. If you're unsure of anything, if it's a Lifelong Learning Centre course, get in touch with us at the Lifelong Learning Centre. If it's in a different university, for example, speak to that institution and just confirm it with them and make sure that that you meet those entry requirements, or if there's any other routes into that particular course as well. I would say that, for any of you guys who are, not quite sure about any of this, you could also access our guidance service as well, our information and advice guidance service, for any of you who haven't accessed that yet. It's a great opportunity to talk about yourself, find out about courses that are available to you, and if you need anything or any further study before you go into those programs. But I'll speak about that at the end. The next thing is whether you're going to be studying full-time or part-time. And the reason this is so important is simply because it's a different application process for a full-time course versus a part-time course. For full-time courses, you'll apply through Ucas, and we'll have a look at that in a bit of detail in the next few slides. For part-time courses, it's very, very different. You apply directly to the university that you want to study at. And as a result, the application the applications that you'll fill out, the application forms, they'll look different from university to university, and they may ask you different questions. You probably will still need to fill in information about your previous qualification history. You'll still need to complete a personal statement of some type as well. But for full-time study, you apply through Ucas, and it's quite a rigid process, which I'll go through in a minute. Go for it. Sorry.
Do you know, I've applied and I've got a conditional offer. I'm doing the Access course. If I don't meet all of them, what happens? Like, if let's say it was like 40, I need to get 45 merits or something, but if I get like 35 or something, what happens then? Will I get put in clearance? What will happen?
It's a really, really good question, and apologies, I can't see you guys when I'm doing the presentation, so really sorry. But yeah, do interrupt me, please do. So really good question. That is really, really good question. So what course are you applying for, first of all?
Psychology.
Psychology. Okay, it's going to depend, in honesty, on the universities that you're applying to. Is the truth. Some universities will want you to meet their entry requirements that they've advertised on their website. So if they make you an offer, they will want you to meet that offer. Some universities are more flexible than others. So some universities may still, accept your application or make you an unconditional offer, even if you, when you get your grades back from your Access course, didn't quite get what you need. So they'll have a bit more of wiggle room, I guess, really. You know, if you're a bit less, you get a bit less than what they're asking for, they'd still make you an offer. That's going to depend on institution to institution. It's not something you can guarantee for each university, unfortunately. Leeds tends to be quite strict. You know, they tend to want you to get what they're asking for, to be honest with you. Other universities might have a bit more flexibility.
So is it best to just ring them then, like when I get my results and that? And
Yeah,
I mean, hopefully I'll pass it all, but just
yeah,
in
of
case.
course, I'm sure you will. But it's good to know, isn't it? It's good to
Yeah,
find out what might happen in that case.
yeah.
So
Thank you anyway.
the problem may be with Access, you get your results earlier than you would say for A levels or BTECs. However, universities go into what's called clearing around about July time, and often they'll keep all the applications, even the ones where you've submitted your results, and they may not process them until the 15th of August. They may do them all at the same time so they can make all their offers, or make their decisions on A-level applications, BTEC applications, Access, and others. So you might not hear back straight away, but you'll probably get a bit of an idea, because you'll know your grades, whether you're probably going to get the grades needed for that institution or not. So there's a number of things which I'm going to cover in the next couple of slides, which I would say around this is a good thing to do. So I'll cover that about choosing using your options wisely. But if you do go into clearing, that's when your application, you don't receive any offers essentially for your firm choice or your insurance choice. And then you go into what's called clearing. And clearing essentially is if there are places still left on university courses, universities will have them available at that time and be looking to fill places on courses. But I would say, first things first, don't worry too much about that at the moment, and hopefully you'll get the grades you need. But in the next couple of slides, hopefully I'll cover it in a bit more detail as well about having a backup, which I think is really important. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Brilliant. Now, the thing is as well, it's really hard because, in honesty, and it's really hard to know these things. I mean, why would you know that, firstly, why would you even know that for a nursing course, for example, that there's different entry requirements at different universities? It all leads on to one profession, doesn't it? You just think it's all standardized, but unfortunately it's not. And universities essentially make their own decisions on what to do with applications. They're autonomous in that respect. So it's, they can decide if they want to accept, applications that don't meet the entry requirements, or just stick to accepting only the ones that do. And often it has to do with how selective that university is and how many applications they get and how popular a course is as well. The more popular courses are going to get more applications, which means maybe less chance of that happening. But I think that leads on quite good to the next bit, really, is choosing a university and thinking about where to go. Now, of course, I personally, would say a lot of people start at looking at league tables, for example, whereas that university and league tables for teaching and student experience and all those things are really, really, important and give you a good indicator of what that university is like. But I think there's also practical considerations that, as adults, I think, often can override those things, just, by the pure sense of just practicality and day-to-day things. And that can often be, firstly, around how far you're going to be traveling on a regular basis to go to university. If you've got, care responsibilities, kids, if you've got a mortgage or a job, that you're going to be continuing while you're studying, you might not be able to move as far as afield as some other people, which may mean actually that, limits your scope of what universities you're looking at to the local region. That might be based on how far you're willing to travel per day, in a car or train or a bus, for example. It may also be the course that you're looking at. A particular course may not be offered at every single university as well, so that might limit where you're looking at. But I think those things are really important just to take into consideration. And also, look at specialist facilities as well. What's available? What else is available at that university? For example, if you're looking at a course like a scientific program, like biomedical sciences, for example, biology, something like that, what are the specialist facilities that you'll have access to? Are they laboratories, for example? Is it a chance to go around and have a look at them as well? I think it's really important when you're choosing a university to make sure it's somewhere you're going to feel comfortable as well. you're going to be spending 3 years there. For you guys who are thinking about a foundation year as well, at least 4 years. So you want to make sure you're happy in that town or city, happy on that campus. So go visit them, go to any open days that are available. I always think as well, I always say, great to go to an open day because you can meet course academics, you can find out about, the administrative side of going to university, like accommodation and things like that. But if you just go on a normal day, like a Tuesday afternoon or something like that in term time, it'll give you a really good flavour of what it's like on that campus, whether you feel happy there or not. But as I said, accommodation, whether you're going to move or not, can often play a big factor. And financial factors as well are a thing to consider. Now, I won't go into it in too much detail in this session because we're going to have another session on student finance next month, and please do feel free to come along to that. But financial factors, can come to play as well. Some universities are able to offer you bursaries and grants. That's money you don't have to pay back on top of what you can get from Student Finance England. Not all can, so do look at that as well. Has anybody got any questions before I carry on?
Yeah, I have. It's Kelly.
Hello, Kelly.
Hiya. I've had offers, from some universities, and then I'm hoping to go to the UCLan one, but I live in Huddersfield. So would I have to give my property up and go live there?
No, I mean, it's entirely up to you, Kelly, what you do and how you feel comfortable. I guess it's about travel, isn't it, really? And it's about how far you're willing to travel on a regular basis and what transport's like. If you are wanting to move, then of course that's a possibility, and universities have accommodation. There's also private accommodation, which is usually available through places like Unipol in Leeds. I'm not sure what will be in that area in Lancashire, but there's lots and lots of students who commute to university.
So for example, because of the distance, I'd have to reside there, but then my kids live here. My kids live here, but I'd have to stay there, during term time and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that I guess that's a decision for you to make, and how far you want to travel on a regular basis, and if that's the case that you're going to be staying there for your studies in term time or not, that would be up to you. I would say probably do the journey, see what you think, see if it's a journey that you could do on a regular basis, or see what you think. But the one thing just to take into consideration, honestly, is that universities, they won't take into consideration how far you live from that university. No. They'll expect people to be able to be within a close distance to be able to come to lectures, seminars, and things such as that. So, it wouldn't be a case that they would probably say to you, well, Kelly, you live a bit further away, you don't have to come to this. They'd still expect you to do everything. And the thing is with that, it's just worth bearing in mind. But as I said, there are loads and loads of commuter students at universities. At Leeds, we have lots and lots of commuter students. So it's something that people do and people can do. But
no, I wouldn't be commuting. I've put down, on the Ucas that I wouldn't be living at home. So basically, it's the other way around. Usually it's the children that leave home and go to university. It's the parent, that's leaving home. So it's other way around.
Yeah, and that's the thing. By the way, what you put on your Ucas application. If you decide you don't want to do that, don't worry. It's not binding on your Ucas application. If you change your mind at any time, you can do that. All that triggers is just that they'll send you accommodation information, essentially, really. So don't worry too much about that if you change your mind. But by all means, I mean, like I say, there's students from all different backgrounds, who are in different circumstances, and there will be accommodation that you'll be able to access. And if you just get in contact with UCLan, they should be able to let you know. But
right.
So that would be the best thing to do. And again, it's just what you feel comfortable and what you're happiest with, really, I would say, Kelly.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that okay? Does that answer it okay?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
But any more questions, please do ask, because it's brilliant. That's what we're here for, as I keep saying.
Yeah,
Greg,
I will. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, brilliant. Greg, are there any questions in the chat?
Sorry, my daughter walked in just that moment. Apologies, John.
No, don't apologise. Don't apologise. I'm missing bedtime at the moment. So bedtime starts in about 10-15 minutes. So I'm missing it tonight. I'm out of it doing this. So yeah, the other thing is student finance, and I'll cover that a little bit at the end as well. So Ucas Applications. So for anybody who is applying for a full-time course at university this year or next year, whenever it is, you will apply through Ucas for your courses, and this is for all, crucially, full-time undergraduate degree courses at universities or colleges as well. You know, you may study a degree course at college as well. They'll all go through Ucas. It's a central applications process or system, and I'm sure probably a lot of you have already become familiar with it. Now, if you, as I mentioned, if you're studying part-time, if you're applying for a part-time course, you apply directly to that university, and it's however they ask you to complete that. It could be an online form, could be a paper form, but it will be slightly different. And for UCAS, when you're applying for a full-time course, you can apply for up to 5 courses at one time. And the application cost, which goes to UCAS, not the unis, is £22 for a single choice or £26.50 if you're making more than one choice. So between 2 and 5 choices on your application. When you submit it, you have to pay UCAS £26.50. Now, there's a few things I think are really important to know with the application system with regards to UCAS. It's firstly, pardon me, when you submit your application, it goes directly to the universities that you're applying to. Now, the universities won't know what other institutions you're applying to. So if you choose 5 universities, you choose Derby, Nottingham, Leicester, Leeds, and Salford, let's say. Those universities, when they receive your application, will not know that you've applied to another university. So in no way at all is it a negative on yourself to apply for more than one university. Not at all. In fact, I would say it's something that you should be doing. I would definitely advise to do it. And the next thing to know is when you submit your application, you only get one personal statement to submit, no matter how you use your choices or how many choices you use. Now, this is usually fine if you're applying for a course, let's say, you know, we're just talking about it, so psychology. You know, if you're applying for 5 psychology courses at different universities or 4, you know, your personal statement is going to fit for those programs because you're applying essentially for the same subject area. It becomes more complicated if you apply for courses that are very different to one another. So if you apply for biomedical sciences, psychology, and let's say choreography, how would one personal statement, you don't have much space to write really, cover, you know, and show that you have an interest in all those areas? I would actually say it doesn't, and it shows that you've got not really made your mind up on what you want to study. So it's really important that you think about that. Obviously, it's slightly different if you're applying for a foundation year, you know, but I would have an idea of what you want to go on to next as well, because, you know, if you go to an interview, that would be you would be asked that. It would be really important. The main application deadline is the 26th of January, depending on the course. So some courses had earlier deadlines, like for dentistry and medicine, they were in October if you're applying for this September 2022. However, just as a caveat to that, because I don't want to worry you, and not all, the reason they have this deadline is essentially equal consideration. So any applicant who applies before the 26th of January will be considered for a course. Now, if you apply after the 26th of January, a university will only consider your application if they have places still available on that particular program. And if they don't, they don't have to consider your application. They're not bound by UCAS to look at it if they don't have any spaces left, if they've made enough offers. A lot of courses, however, will still be recruiting after the 26th of January, but not all. It's just, you know, so if it's a particular popular course or a very popular institution, you know, honestly speaking, Leeds being one of them, you know, then if you apply for the 26th of January, it will depend whether there are places still available. For our foundation years, should be absolutely fine, I would have thought. And obviously part-time courses don't have this deadline. This deadline doesn't exist for part-time programs. It's just the UCAS application process and for full-time courses. Is that okay? I don't want to worry anybody with the deadline, but it is there, so it's worth knowing about. So when you're applying to UCAS, make sure you get your application in. Remember that deadline as well, the 26th of January, and remember if you apply after that, you know, not every course will still be available, so double check, I would say. As I mentioned, you can apply for up to 5 courses. Now, once you apply and you get your decisions back, it's at this point you'll either receive an offer, or they'll let you know if you've been unsuccessful. They should give you a reason why as well. Or you might be interviewed, or you might be invited to an interview. So healthcare courses, for example, foundation years, other programs may invite you for an interview as part of the selection process. Now, when you decide what you want to do and you've received all your offers, it's up to you to think about what you want to do next. And this is really important, I think, particularly because for what we were speaking about earlier as well, around how to use your choices. You can have 2 choices essentially when you receive your offers, and you have an insurance choice and a firm choice. Your firm choice is essentially the university that you want to go to. That's your main university, the main place that you want to study, your desired course and institution. Your insurance choice is your backup choice. So if you don't get the grades for your first choice, this would be your backup choice. So you get 2 offers that you can choose essentially out of the 5 if you receive 5 offers, for example. Your firm choice, your insurance choice. There's a couple of things to know about this, which I think are really, really important. Firstly, your firm choice, as I mentioned, should be your main choice, and your insurance choice should be a lower offer than your firm choice, because if you don't meet the grades for your first choice, then you'll be looking at your insurance choice. So it should be a lower grade entry requirement, or a lower offer, should I say, than your firm choice. And I think this is important as well, to think about how we use our offers. Now, it's absolutely fine and it's totally valid if you've got one university that you really, really want to go to in one particular course. You could have a real valid reason. It's totally understandable. It can be travel, it can be a particular course. But what happens if you don't get that particular university program, or you don't get a place on that course for whatever reason? That's why I think it's really important to use as many of the choices as you can. I'd say use 5. Apply for some universities that you'd love to go to, but you're not quite sure whether you get the grades. Ones that you're really interested in, and then some backups as well. Now, backup could be could take different forms. For example, a backup could be a course. Say, for example, a course that you're interested in at another university that has lower entry requirements, but it could be another route into that course at the same university. So foundation years, for example. Foundation years, for anybody who's not aware of them, generally have lower entry requirements than if you were progressing straight onto a degree. And they give you an extra year to prepare. So that could be an option for some people as well. But I guess all I'm saying is maybe the Ucas application process gives you 5 choices for a reason, really. And I would say, it's in no way a disservice to yourself to use all 5. And actually, it's a really good idea. And universities and colleges expect you to apply for more than one university, through Ucas. It's absolutely fine and normal to do that. So do use your choices and do have a look at different courses and make sure that, they're right for you as well. Is that okay? Greg, have we got any questions in the chat?
Nothing else stand there. I don't think so, John.
Okie doke, brilliant. So once you receive your results, you'll get a notice on Ucas Track, and then you'll find out if you met the conditions of your offer. So the next part is personal statements. Now, personal statements, as I mentioned, are really, really important. And when you're putting together your application, for anybody who's started it, or yet to start it, you'll soon, when you do, come to the realization that this is the bit that's going to take you the longest, I guess, in the application process. The other parts of it are similar to what we've probably done in applying for jobs, or it could be filling out forms, maybe for college or other things. Those personal details, your name, your qualification history, for example, things such as that. But your personal statement is the bit where you're going to be able to really get across why you should be made an offer on a particular program. And sometimes, over other people as well, is the truth of it. As I mentioned, you get one statement to cover all 5 choices. Now, for the Ucas applications, you're limited in size as well, crucially. So you get 4,000 characters and 47 lines. Now, we're not talking about a word count there as well, crucially, so just bear that in mind. That's character count, including lines, including spaces. So, you know, as cheesy as it sounds, every word does count when you're putting together your personal statement. And expect to go through, you know, quite a few drafts as well. If you're applying for a course which, you know, is going to get a lot of applications or has limited space on the program because maybe laboratory space, maybe placements, you know, are limited, then your personal statement could be the difference between you getting an offer of a place on a course or not, or getting invited to an interview. Now, I'm sure you're all intelligent people, and I'm sure you've all got a lot going on in your lives, but it's really worth, you know, finding that time and spending plenty of time to do this, because as I mentioned, I'm sure you're intelligent people. You could probably put together a personal statement, you know, in a few hours if you wanted to, or, you know, a day or so, and that's absolutely fine. But is it going to get you that place on the course that you really want? I would actually say work on this. You know, if you were to go through 8-9 drafts, it's totally normal. That's a normal amount of drafts to go through for something like this. From your mind maps, your bullet points, to the finished article, you know, every single word is checked, your grammar's perfect. You know, if you go through that amount, it's totally normal, I would say. Be positive throughout a personal statement. Be yourself as well. But, you know, be positive. Sell yourself. You know, if you were going for a job interview, you talk about all the amazing positive things and great attributes you have. And this is the same in a personal statement. So it's important because, you know, the admissions tutor, they don't know anything about you as a person, and it's your chance to really get across, you know, why you should be made an offer for a place on the course. You know, it demonstrates that you made an informed decision, that you know about that particular subject or that particular profession as well. And as I mentioned, it could be the difference between getting offered a place on a course or not as well. So just bear that in mind. Now, I don't think we'll actually do this activity because it doesn't really lend itself very well to doing it on Zoom. But I do think it's something that's worth having to think about. And the first thing to think about when you're putting together your personal statement is why this course, why this particular degree program, why am I applying for it over the hundreds or maybe thousands of different courses I could do? Why have I picked this particular one? And this is going to be your chance in your first part of your personal statement to show why you've made an informed decision to apply for this particular program. And it's a really good idea when you get a bit of time at home, or, you know, on a break at work, whenever it is, just to sit down, have a bit of quiet time and think about why you're applying to this particular university, or why you're applying for this particular course, should I say. What was the spark that made you decide you wanted to find out more about sociology, psychology, mental health nursing, for example, dentistry, whatever it is, you know, what was it that made you want to go in that particular path or route? And if you get the chance, if you can get somebody to interview you, do a bit of a mock interview and get them to ask you questions and find out more about why you want to study that particular program. You know, things that are really good to think about is like, why do you want to do the course? Where do you hope it's going to take you as well? And what are you most looking forward to studying, most looking forward to about studying this degree, should I say? Because this is all going to feed into your personal statement, and it's really, really important that you have to think about this. Because when you're putting together your personal statement, it's not going to be enough, for example, to open your application or open your personal statement. You know, the first couple of sentences say something like, I've always wanted to study biomedical sciences. Well, it doesn't tell the person who's reading your application anything about your decision of why you wanted to study that program. So you need to give them the why, and you need to really kind of dig deep and think about that. It could be an experience that you've had using that service, for example. It could be literature that you've read. It could be documentaries. It could be, you know, something like that that's piqued your interest to make you want to find out more about that particular subject area. It could be a family member who works in a particular profession, for example. But think about it. Maybe make some notes, because this is going to form the beginning of your personal statement. This is the beginning. Why this course? You know, why do you want to study this particular subject? Is that okay? Shall I carry on? Is everybody okay? Okay, I'm going to carry on. And the next bit is why me? What have you done to demonstrate that you deserve a place on this particular program? And this is a part that I actually think is often the hardest when we're putting together our personal statement. Just to say as well, you know, if you're doing a personal statement for a part-time program as well, still really important to, you know, to work on it as well and get across why you want to study a particular subject and why you're the right person for the program. You may not have the same constraints, you know, as Ucas with regards to the 4,000 characters, 47 lines, for example, but, you know, do still work on it and speak to tutors or members of staff at the university about what they'd expect from a personal statement for that particular program as well. Pardon me. Now, the next bit, as I mentioned, is why me? And I often think this can be, as I mentioned, the toughest bit, you know, that one of the hardest bits for people to do. So before we start that, I just want to, I guess, just kind of just go back a minute and just kind of, I'm going to try and do this. Design. Let's have a go. Insert. Okay, so I've got on the screen now experiences and skills and what they say about us, because the next part of your application is what attributes and skills do you have which are going to make you suitable for a particular course, or going to make you a great mental health nurse or a great dentist, for example. And I think as adults, we have loads of skills and loads of attributes and qualities that we don't maybe always kind of give enough credit to. So before we even think about anything particularly related to your degree course that you're applying for, I just want to think about some of the experiences that we may have on a regular basis. So I'm going to go back to the screen now. Hopefully you can see me. And I want you just to type in here something that you do on a regular basis. It could be cooking, it could be driving a car, anything at all. Just put in the chat. That'd be brilliant. I'll tell you why in a minute. Brilliant. Family. Okay, so Kelly, looking after a family. Brilliant. Okay, so right. Okay, anybody else? Or we just got the one? Absolutely fine if we just got the one. Okay, I'm thinking of a few as well. So for example, driving a car. I just want you to think about some of the skills that we would need to be able to do this on a regular basis, or to be, you know, a good driver, or to look after a family. What are some of the things that you need to be able to drive a car? Some of the skills you would need, or to look after a family. You just put in the chat. Approachable, brilliant. Yeah, definitely agree. Oh, man. Patient, yeah, agree. Patient, can I? It's terrible. Not much to be honest. Organised, brilliant. Good listener, yeah, brilliant, Adriana, thank you. Don't worry, Kelly, I can't drive either, so I always choose the one that I can't do. So I don't know why. Maybe it's something in me telling me that I need to drive, I don't know. But I always say I'm doing good for the environment anyway by not driving. That's my excuse anyway. So non-judgmental, brilliant. Managing time, competent, brilliant. These are absolutely great. And the reason I wanted to do this, and thanks everybody for having a go at that, is because there's a lot of things that we do on a regular basis, a lot of things that we do in our life that we take for granted essentially, and we don't give credit to a lot of our skills and our experience, which is incredibly transferable. And we have a lot of great skills and qualities that we can demonstrate, you know, with great examples that are incredibly transferable to a degree course, irrespective of what that degree course is. You know, some of these, just looking at them, you know, being organised, you know, managing time, you know, how important that is for studying on a degree program. You know, being a great listener, for example, non-judgmental. Anybody thinking about a healthcare program, for example, or, you know, course like counselling or psychology, you know, it's a brilliant attribute to have. Now, I'm not saying that you necessarily put that you can drive a car in an application for for politics, for example, or English literature. But I think it's just worth us thinking about what we do on a regular basis and the great skills and qualities that we have, and then thinking about examples that we could use in our application, in your personal statement, or maybe even in an interview as well. So I think this is always a good starting place, because I'm really guilty of this. I definitely am. If you ask me what I'm not very good at, I could tell you a million things. If you ask me what I'm good at, it takes me longer to get to that, really. And I just don't think it's something that a lot of people do on a regular basis. And when you're putting together an application or a personal statement or going to an interview, it's really, really important that you talk about all those great experience and skills and attributes that you have. And just bear in mind as well that, as an adult, you have an amazing transferable experience, and universities are really looking for that. You've just got to make sure that it's relevant to the course you're applying for. And I didn't say at the start that, we have a large number of adult learners at the University of Leeds, and most universities will as well. I think we have like over 2,500 adults, people who are 21 and above at the University of Leeds. So there's a large number of students that are really, really valued to what you bring to a group, of students as well. So, think about all your great experiences and qualities and attributes and how you can put them in your personal statement. And the main thing to know as well is when you're submitting it, or when you're writing it, really putting it together, this why me bit, is think about activities that you've done. What were the benefits? What transferable skills did you get? And then how they relate to the course you're applying for, crucially. Everything in your personal statement should be related to the degree you're applying for. Now, this is a really broad example that I've got here, and it's using the ABC structure example. If you Google personal statement, advice, or something like that, you'll get like about 50 billion different hits if you go onto Google. So there's a wealth of information and advice out there and resources that you can use. Ucas's website's great, but there's lots of other different websites you can have a look at. This is just one I found, so I didn't make it up, but it's called the ABC structure. And essentially, it's to make sure that every example you provide relates to the degree you're applying for. So think about what you've done. So this example is somebody who's volunteered in a charity shop. What are the transferable skills that you gained? Obviously, leadership, communication, self-motivation, reliability, trust, things like that. And how do they relate to the course you're applying for? Now, in this example, it's quite general. It's talking about leadership and communication skills, really important for university group work. Definitely true, 100%. Motivation, necessary to succeed on a degree program, 100% true as well. But if I was applying for a healthcare course, for example, I'd probably also talk about communication, working with members of the public, for example. There'll be lots of great examples that you could pull from something like that and relate them to the degree you're applying for. So just have a think, I would say. Maybe start by making bullet points about things that you do. It could be in the workplace. It could be managing a household. It could be on your current studies or your previous studies as well. So think about things that are, would be related to the degree you're applying for, and make sure you structure it in a way similar to this. And I guess for anybody who is studying at the moment or has previously studied as well, think about what you've learned on your particular course. Now, this is say an access course, just because I've been delivering these sessions for students in colleges on access courses, but it doesn't have to be that. It could be any program that you've studied. But think about what you've learned and how that's related to what you're applying for, essentially. So, if you were applying for a healthcare course, and you've done psychology modules, for example, think about how that's going to, develop and your understanding and importance of the importance of mental well-being alongside a patient's physical health, for example. But it could be related to a number of different things. Think about what you've learned and how that's going to be transferable and how that's going to be really useful and going to make you a great student on the degree you're applying for. Tutors don't expect you to be the finished article when you're applying, otherwise you wouldn't need to do the degree. But they want to see that you have knowledge of what you're applying for, and that you also are able to give evidence or examples of your attributes and your qualities, which are going to make you a great student on the program. So make sure you include evidence of this. Now, it might be a case, if you've been out of education for a while, that maybe you've done online courses, for example. Maybe you've attended an online webinar or something like that. That's a possibility. These are all things you could speak about as well. Maybe you've done some, personal study, some reading. You could talk about those things in this part as well, and relate it to what you're applying for. Is that okay? Okay, brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. It's always, like I said before, it's crazy, isn't it? You're speaking, you think I'd be used to it now after about 2 and a bit years of doing this, but I'm still not used to speaking into a laptop in my basement for these type of sessions. Obviously, pre-COVID, we would have done them online, and we'd have done a lot more activities and things like that, but it's just, not the case, unfortunately, at the moment. Hopefully in the future it will be. So anybody who's applying for an NHS career, so particularly, it could be nursing, it could be midwifery, it could be podiatry, courses like that, it could be occupational therapy, physiotherapy, for example, speech and language therapy. Think about, not just what we spoke about, but also how you can demonstrate an awareness or understanding of the NHS values, the 6 C's of nursing, for example. Think about how you can relate your examples to these things. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to reinvent the wheel either. If you're kind of using an example like I was talking about maybe interacting with customers in a shop, well, there's lots of examples I'm sure that you could relate to things like, compassion, working together, respecting dignity, things like that. Also, I would say that if you're applying for a course that has a specific profession at the end of it, make sure you know about that particular profession. Familiarize yourself with any, if they have a statutory body, professional body, like the Nursing and Midwifery Council, for example, the Chartered Society of Physiotherapy. Make sure you familiarize yourself with it. What are the codes of ethics and competencies that a professional in that field is expected to work by? Because, your personal statement, they expect you to have some knowledge of this. But also, if you're going to an interview, they're going to expect you to be able to kind of talk about this and relate your examples to it, I would say. Or they may ask you to give an example of, commitment to care, for example. So yeah, that's, I would say, just bear in mind that it's really important. So when you're writing your personal statement, plan it, but structure the plan so you can go back to it if you're limited in time. I would start with something like bullet points, mind map, something to get my brain going, to identify key areas you want to cover. But just remember that when you're actually putting it together, it's going to have to read like an essay, not a shopping list. Can't be bullet points, for example. It's got to be, it's got to read like an essay, for example. And don't copy. I don't think for a second you guys would copy, but Ucas has plagiarism software, and they'll let the universities know if they think you've plagiarized. And I have seen it happen. I've seen that universities that have previously worked at that have been notified of it. So something you can easily avoid, by not doing it. So sometimes I think it's really important to know about what not to include, as well as to what to include. I think that can be really, really important. It's okay me kind of babbling on, but it can be nice sometimes just to know about the pitfalls that you can easily avoid. And the first one is, information about one particular university. So if I'm applying to a particular university, that might be my first choice, and that's great. And you may have a real valid reason for it being your first choice, and absolutely fine. And you might not be wanting to apply to other universities. And again, that can be absolutely valid and fine. But what happens if you don't get a place in that particular university course? Or what happens if you apply to other institutions and you've named a different one in your personal statement? It would say to anybody reading it from a different institution that you're not that interested in their university. No institution is expecting you to name them, by institution. So if you're applying for a course, so let's say you're applying for something like international development at Leeds, and let's say Sheffield, it's absolutely fine to not mention either university by name. It's absolutely, you're not expected to do that. It wouldn't be any negative if you didn't do it. It's absolutely fine. As I mentioned earlier, universities expect you to apply for more than one institution. So absolutely fine. Don't mention any particular university. And don't play yourself down as well. You know, if you were to go to a job interview, you wouldn't tell everybody about all your negative traits, would you? You tell them about all your great positive attributes, which are going to make you a brilliant member of that team or great in that particular role. And it's exactly the same in your personal statement. You know, get across what you're really good at, what you would enjoy in the program, your knowledge that you have already, how it's going to be really transferable and how it's going to make you a great student. So, you know, if you want to put in that you've overcome some adversity, that's fine. I mean, you know, I understand that. You know, a lot of people in their lives have overcome adversity to get to the point where they are now. But just make sure that it doesn't come across in a way that you didn't want it to come across. Remember, you're not sat there with that person reading that personal statement. You can't pick out bits and say, I didn't mean that, I meant this instead. So if you are going to, you know, talk about adversity or overcoming it, for example, talk to friends, family members, people on a course if you're studying at the moment, people whose opinion you trust, and see what they think. Get a number of different opinions about your personal statement and make sure it's not coming across in a way, you know, in the way, and make sure it's coming across in the way you wanted it to. And also, you know, this goes without saying, it's an obvious one, isn't it? But, you know, avoid inappropriate language. But, you know, mainly also, you know, abbreviations or slang that people might not understand. And avoid kind of cliche ways of saying things as well. So, you know, like I said earlier, I've always wanted to study illustration. Great, brilliant. Now tell me why you want to study illustration. You know, give me a reason rather than just saying that kind of flat sentence that doesn't really tell us anything about your reasons. You know, give them the reason why you wanted to study illustration for a long time. You know, what was that spark that made you want to do that? And avoid any information that's repeated elsewhere or is included elsewhere on the form. So you don't have to, for example, tell them the exact, you know, name of the college or school or wherever it was that you studied previously in your personal statement, because you've covered that elsewhere. You've already told them that in the qualification section. It's just going to take up your word count and you know, just means you have less opportunity to talk about how great you are, you know, and how you're a great fit for the program. So also in a personal statement, you know, don't be too brief. Pardon me. You know, they give you 4,000 characters and 47 lines for a reason, so use it. You know, avoid cheesy words, and this is a hard one, I always think as well, because, you know, I'm passionate. I don't have a problem with the word passionate at all, but I guess it's just words that will be coming up regularly on applications that people are reading. So think of a different way to say things. But again, quick Google, you'll find loads of information about this, about words to avoid and things like that. But also indications of conflict and interest. This goes back to when you maybe not decided what you want to apply for yet, and you kind of maybe, you know, applying for a number of different programs. How is one personal statement going to get that across? And obviously as well, you know, any lack of insight into the subject is not going to be good. You know, this is your chance to show how you have made a, you know, an informed decision, that you do, you know about it. Poor spelling and grammar as well. As I mentioned earlier, I can't spell, shocking at spelling, and my grammar's even worse. So when I'm putting together anything like this, I would ask somebody who's really good at it, like Greg, for example, to have a look at it for me if he had the time. So yeah, you know, make sure that you double check your grammar and spelling. Get somebody you know to check it. You spell check on Word. Don't rely on the Ucas box when you're typing it in to tell you if you're spelling anything wrong. It won't. And in fact, actually, it will also time you out after a certain period of time. I know I've known people who've been typing the personal statement in there for whatever reason, straight directly onto Ucas. They've gone to get a coffee, they've come back and it's timed them out and lost all their work. So do your personal statement on a Word document, and then you can just copy and paste it. So I mentioned as well about getting advice and support from our guidance team, and I would really, really recommend this for anybody who thinks it might be good for them. It's free, impartial, one-to-one guidance support from Mohammed or Denise, and you can see the lovely Mohammed and Denise on the right-hand side of your screen, I think, and they're brilliant, and they'll give you great support and guidance. They're really experienced in specialising in mature students, but financial situations they have great knowledge of, qualifications in the area, university courses in the area, and what qualifications you would need as well. So that support with qualification queries as well, they can really help with. If that's something that that will be useful, is something that you think would help, do get in contact with us. And if you haven't already, book an appointment. As I said, it's for adults who don't hold a degree recognised in the UK. So we can really help with that, and I would really recommend it because it's impartial as well. So even if you're maybe thinking about other institutions, you know, it's still open to you to use. Is that okay? Is anyone got questions about that?
John, sorry.
Hello.
Just notice on the previous slide, I think it's slightly out of date, and then we are offering face-to-face appointments now.
Oh, amazing.
As well as over the phone and online. So there are different options depending on what you prefer and what your circumstances are.
Amazing. See, Greg is the fountain of knowledge. He really is. So yeah,
detail.
The opportunity to come in as well and speak with somebody, but you know, there's still telephone appointments, I think, as well. So it's entirely
whatever people are most comfortable with, or what's most convenient for them. Yeah,
brilliant. Oh, thanks, Greg. That's great to know. So just to quickly mention as well, and I won't go over this really long, just because we've got a session coming up in February, and we'll cover, my colleague Paul and I will cover student financing, lots of detail over an hour or so. But the main things to know about student finance and thinking about going to university is you don't need any, you know, upfront fees. There are no upfront fees. You know, you're not expected to have the cash to pay for university. As long as you're eligible for a loan from Student Finance England, you will receive a loan for your tuition fees, and then also, depending on your circumstances, a living costs loan as well. The tuition fees is for your course costs, so that big figure that you'll probably see on a course information page, that gets paid directly from Student Finance to the university you're studying at. And your living costs, or more regularly known as maintenance loan, is what you will get from Student Finance for you to use for whatever you need to use it for while you're studying. And crucially, something that I think is really important as well, and often the media do it a real disservice, is that, you know, you only start paying back your student finance loan, your tuition fee loan and your maintenance loan, when you earn over a set threshold. If you earn less than that threshold, you don't pay anything back. And that set threshold is currently at £26,575, and it will go up for September 2022. So when you finish your degree, if you earn less than that amount, you don't pay anything back, essentially. And it's only 9% on what you earn above that amount as well. So to put that into context, you earned £1,000 over that. So what's that? Just over £27,500. You pay about £90 a year back. So it's not a huge amount that we're talking about here. After 30 years, the debt's completely wiped. And you know, it doesn't pass on to family members either or anything like that. So it's really different to any of the loan that you're going to take out essentially in the private sector, like from a bank or building society. It's just worth knowing that, I think, and knowing that, you know, there's also support that you can get for people with children. There's extra money you might be able to get access to. There's disability support for any, you know, anything that you need while you're studying. And also there's money that you might be able to get from universities as well. I mean, at Leeds, we have the Leeds bursary, and I think it's a maximum of £3,000 a year that you don't have to pay back on top of what you get from student finance, depending on your circumstances. So the reason I mention all this, and the reason I think it's so important, is I don't think, you know, in my opinion, that the fear of debt should put anybody off going to university, because as you can see, when you actually get the facts, it works quite differently than what we might initially expect. So I'm going to stop blithering on now, because you've probably heard enough of me. But I wondered if we've got any questions. Pardon me.
Hello, excuse me.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, my question is about the loan. When I'm supposed to apply for it?
When do you? Sorry, Adriana, was that when you apply for it? When do you?
Yeah, when I'm supposed to apply for a loan.
So, student finance is not open for applications yet for this September. They'll open around about February or March time. They're they keep their cards very close to their chest, and they don't tell us until just before they open, really, about when they're going to open. So I can't give you an exact date. But generally that's for full-time courses. So if you're thinking of a full-time course, you'd apply for student finance when they open about February, probably more likely to be March time, but we'll let you know. And then if it's a part-time course, it generally opens in about June time, about the summertime, and you can apply. Now, the one thing to know about that, because it's a really good question actually, something I didn't mention, is that you can apply for a student loan, irrespective of whether you've got an offer for a place at university or not, as soon as they open. So if you're still umming and ahhing, whether you're thinking about going to university, if you're still waiting to hear back from an interview or an application, apply as soon as student finance is open. All you do is you put down the course that you want to study, you hope to study, and the university you hope to go to. If things change, you just log on and update it. It's as simple as that. The worst thing to do would be to leave it late and then find out actually you can't get everything sorted for September. Now, it does happen. You know, a lot of students unfortunately do find that they've left it so late that they can't get their finance together, and it can either mean months of having no money or it maybe means not starting that year. So apply as early as possible, or apply as soon as you can, I would say. If you don't go to university, you just simply don't get the loan. You know, they're not going to give it you if you don't go to university. But yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
No, it's absolutely fine. Any other questions? Anything student finance, anything like that?
Yeah, I might just have another question then. Sorry.
Yeah, go for it, please do. Yeah.
Because you just mentioned earlier on about, I mean, the number of offers, you know, a university would give, you know, for a course. How many would that be? I mean, how many is many?
It depends. You know, that's the thing. It depends on the course. It depends on the university, Juliana. I mean,
my firm university is offering 76 places. So,
okay.
Yeah, is that many?
Right. What course is it for? Just out of interest.
Psychology.
Psychology. Depends on the university, really. It depends on the course. That's the main thing. Some courses, if they are based in lecture theatres and they're not practical programs, will have a lot more scope and a lot more remit to make more offers. Generally speaking, I mean, you know, it's very, very general. Universities will make a number of offers, and then they will expect that not everybody will either accept the offer, and even those that do accept the offer might go somewhere else when they receive their results. So they'll usually make more than they have places for, but at the same time, if they make you an offer, that is then making a commitment, irrespective of what else happens, that they will offer you a place in that program if you meet the offer, you know, if you meet the conditions that they've set for you, essentially. So as long as, you know, if they've made you an offer and you've accepted it, as long as you make, you know, as long as you meet the conditions of your offer, you will get a place in that program. See what I mean? What they wouldn't do is make you an offer, conditional offer or an unconditional offer, and then turn around and say we've got no place for you. But they're not allowed to do that as part of the Ucas application process. Does that answer it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Brilliant. But yeah, I mean, actual numbers for different programs can vary rapidly and hugely depending on the course and the university, and you know, whether there's placements involved, whether there's lab time, you know, things like that can be you know, really important as well. So I'm going to, the reason I'm sharing my screen still is because I want to show you something very quickly before we finish. So I just want to show you a couple of websites which I think are really good to have a look at. So the first one is Prospects. So it's called prospects.ac.uk. It's a great website because it gives you a lot of information about courses, about careers, and about what people go on to do next as well. So while we're talking about psychology, if I type in psychology, first thing that comes up, which I think is brilliant, is what can I do with a psychology degree? So it gives you lots of different job options that people will go on to do. Some you probably expect: educational psychologist, counselling psychologist. Some perhaps, you know, you wouldn't expect people to go on to do neuroscientist, policy officer. I always think it's quite a different one, isn't it? Education consultant. So you can see there's a number of different. I think it gives you a bit of an idea of what people go on to study or what people go on to do for careers, should I say, when they finish a particular degree. It gives you examples of work experience, typical employers, what people go on to do next, further study-wise. It's really, really good. And you can actually also, let's say we type in politics degree.
Hello, can I ask a question?
Yes, of course, go for it, yeah.
I've already applied before Christmas, and
Yeah.
any idea about when I am supposed to have a response?
Good question. What university have you applied for?
Sorry?
What university have you applied for?
Oh, it's University of Leeds. It's a program, a gateway program in lifelong learning center.
Right. Okay. Generally speaking, I think in the Lifelong Learning Centre, they'll be trying to get through the applications as soon as they can. If you haven't heard anything, you're very welcome to send us an email and we can have a look into it for you. It depends really on the number of applications that we've got and how they're getting through them. The thing to remember is, and again, this is all universities. They will receive a lot of applications around this time of the year, thousands. And it can take them a little bit longer than normal to get through them, just the very volume of the number that they have. Some universities as well will actually wait until they've got all their applications in. So they'll wait until that 26th of January deadline and then go through all the applications to decide what they're going to do and how many offers they're going to be making. So sometimes it can be that you don't hear anything for a little bit. Just send an email and just asking them and saying whereabouts.
Yes, it's just a bit nervous waiting, you know.
Yeah, of course. Oh, I know, I get it. Don't get me wrong. It's very very nerve-wracking waiting. So I totally understand, and it's but I'm sure if you just ask and say I'm sure that somebody will let you know. Maybe just even if it's just knowing that they've received it as well can sometimes be good to know, can't it? I would say that they're
yeah, I'm planning to call actually, but it just I don't want to be to put more pressure. I know that university they receive more applications during this time, so I just wanted to know if there is like a time span about
I mean, I don't know what it is for the Lifelong Learning Centre, if I'm honest with you, but I know they'll try and get through them as fast as they can, really. Generally, universities will try and get I think it's a few weeks generally, that they'll try and get the applications turned around and a decision made or a request for further information. But as I said, it can sometimes be, just with everything that's going on at the moment, it can take a little bit longer with people working from home and things like that as well. I hope that's okay.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot for your answer.
It's fine, no problem at all. So yeah, just to show you as well, a good website to have a look at as well, as I mentioned, is Prospects. But what you can also do is have a look at job profiles as well. So if you were particularly interested in being an adult nurse, let's say, you can have a look at the salaries, the working hours, for example, what to expect, what qualifications do you need to get into that particular profession as well. So really interesting, and something that maybe to have a look at before you go to an interview for something like this is the type of skills that you'd need as well. Think about examples that you will have, and I'm sure you'll all have them, that you could use for things like this. So, and different employers, of course, the NHS, but there may be other people who employ nurses that you might not have thought about. It's a great website, prospects.ac.uk, has great information about interviews and things like that as well. And finally, I'll show you this website. So this is Futurelearn. So Futurelearn is a website where you can do online courses for free in a multitude of different subject areas. They're put online by universities around the globe, really, and they can give you more to speak about in a personal statement. So if I was applying for a criminology course, let's say, for example, I was putting together my application and I felt like I needed more to speak about in my personal statement. I didn't feel like I had enough. Perhaps an online course, they're called MOOCs, which means Massive Open Online Course, could be something to look at. And it could give you more to talk about in your personal statement. It's not going to go towards an offer. You don't get Ucas points or anything like that for it. But it does show that you've made, you have vested interest in that subject, and that you've actually gone above and beyond in your free time to learn about it. So, for example, one I picked up straight away: incarceration, are prisons a suitable punishment? That's put on by the University of Leeds. You could do that short course. It's 2 weeks, 4 hours a week for 2 weeks, and you could maybe talk about what you learnt in it. You could talk about what you enjoyed. You could talk about maybe any theories that you found out about. It really, I would say, would show that it's quite impressive, I would say, in a personal statement, something like that. Now, obviously, everybody's got the time for 4 hours a week for 2 weeks. I understand that. But there's other ways to look at it. It could be volunteering that you could do. It could be, it could be extracurricular reading that you may do from the library. It could be watching, seminars online or attending an online seminar that you might be able to find out more about that particular subject area, particular topic. It's just something to think about for anybody who would like a bit more information.